or when you ask for something, like because you get up all the courage and the muster in the world to say, I think I deserve this, and they go, no.
We have to tell our kids no, so that they don't get into the real world and think that it's crazy.
You hear the way everyone speaks to each other, you know, parents and kids a lot. You hear like, is it okay? Do you want to talk about it? You want to talk about it? And sometimes people at work aren't asking you if you want to talk about it. They're just telling you, you're staying late, but I have a party. Yeah, but you're working late today.
That was a clip that caught our attention from Today with Hoda and Jenna. They had this chat about telling your kids no. You heard them say they think we should do that more. But is this recent push for peaceful parenting telling us we shouldn't? It feels like directly denying your child goes against the parenting styles people are preaching nowadays. But my next guest says these new approaches may be taking it too far. She thinks we're starting to over-empathize, over-explain, and over-parent. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson will help us find a better balance. I am so just curious and intrigued to hear what you have to say about this, because the idea that we're over-parenting from our parenting contributor may catch people by surprise. So spell out the problem as you see it.
Well, especially because we here, we've had so many, and we will continue to have so many conversations about the importance of being empathetic and validating and seeing our children and our teenagers as people, not objects. We are not saying that those things aren't good. But what is happening is the pendulum is swinging too far the other direction, where we're putting all of our energy into these really great parenting practices, these people practices as we get to know our kids and love them. But we're leaving out a lot of other values and principles that need room too.
Like what?
Like discipline. Like, as you know, we watch that ability to say no to something, to pass the buck a little bit and say, hey, I'm sorry this has been challenging, and also I'm excited to see you figure it out. We're not doing those parts. And so what's happening is we're doing a great job empathizing, we're doing a great job validating, we're doing a great job loving them. And we're forgetting that there also needs to be room for these other values and principles.
Really quickly then, before we dive into your awesome solutions, and that's where the meat of our conversation will land, but I love an on-the-ground example of like over-empathizing. When might I over-empathize with my child?
Yeah, so this would be a situation where maybe they come home and they're complaining about what's happened at school.
Okay.
And we sit with them, which we should. And we're right there with them, and we're hearing them, and the teacher's the worst, and we can understand it, and we're validating those feelings. And then we don't take an opportunity to also swing back through and help them, teach them how to overcome or work with it.
We just pool in the empathy.
Right, but we don't ever swing back around to bring in the next value and principle, which is, guess what? This is going to happen to you again, and yes, it's miserable, and also you can't just sit miserable in math class forevermore. So we got to do something about it.
So we're only going halfway.
Right, we're not completing the circle.
Over-explaining, when might I over-explain to my child?
Yeah, again, a situation where we're going to explain to them, we're going to tell them, we're going to teach them, we're going to keep working through that. We're going to give them all those answers and solutions, and we didn't bring in the part where we need to look at them and say, hey, what do you think you could do about this? Hey, go think this through and then come back and tell me the approach you'd like to take with this. We're forgetting that we got to make it full circle. We've got to go all the way around.
So helping us close that loop, or in other words, strike the balance of where we need to land.
When families and relationships don't have balance, that imbalance brings about the exact challenges and problems we're trying to avoid in the first place. And that's what we want to understand. It's the balance that really keeps us healthy, right? Any family, any relationship, we're always looking to stay in a middle space, not get extreme on either end.
In order to do that, you say we have to go back to our parenting goals.
We do have to go back to those goals. So here's the thing. We want to ask ourselves, because remember, we're looking to contribute the balance. We want to ask, okay, is the way I'm handling this, is it contributing long-term to what I hope happens here? So for example, if I over-explain, provide all the solutions, and take out all the challenges, that's going to lead to a child that has a very easy life. If that's not a goal I have as a parent, then I need to shift and change how I'm handling things. I've gone over, I'm doing too much. That isn't a goal I have for our kids. My husband and I, the goal for them is not to have a very easy life. It's actually for them to know how to face up and handle challenges.
Which this is so interesting to me, and again, my lens is little kids right now, but you know, we talk about let them struggle, and oftentimes I think my natural mind at least goes to the big things, like let them struggle through the big things. You're saying let the struggle happen early and young.
Absolutely, in those little things too, right? And how scary would it be if they don't ever struggle in the little, and then all of a sudden they're hit with the big? They don't know what to do with those things. So we want to make sure that there's allowance for that struggle as they go. So we want to reevaluate, is how I'm handling this, does it contribute to what I would say our long-term goals are
Okay.
for parenting or for our kids.
You don't want us to focus on what we need.
Which we do all the time. We often parent from a place of what we need or what makes us feel comfortable in the moment.
Like, I need you to get in the car with your shoes on and have already visited the restroom.
Yes, or let's do a really easy example that we've all felt when your child has a chore to do, like cleaning the counter, and they're not doing it fast enough or efficient enough.
Were you
We've
in my
all
house
felt
this morning?
one.
Are you in my head?
And we've got that one side of us that's saying, yes, but I need to allow them to do this, and this is good for them in those chores. And then we look at it and go, wait, but what I need right now is you to be faster and you to be more thorough, and me to not have to come back and do this again once you leave the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so we're so worried about what it is we might need that we don't realize we want to parent from what they need. We have to step out of that comfort zone. We have to shift what our time commitments look like so that we're looking at what is it that they need, and that creates the balance. Remember, we're trying to avoid the pendulum shifting too far to an extreme.
Right.
We want to find ourselves in the middle. And so being sure that we're focusing on what they need opposed to what satisfies us in the moment or protects us, that's going to help us keep a balance.
There's a million applications in that one point of advice, so thank you for that. You want us to keep it in their corner?
Yes, which means we want to let them be proactive.
Okay.
So this is looking at them and saying, how would you like to solve this? Or what perspectives do you have on this? Or how might you go about coming up with a solution for this, or tackling this, or handling it? We tend to over-explain, over-take care of, over-parent, and we then are in a place where we're giving them the solutions. We want them to come up with the solutions.
So especially, though, with teenagers, this takes a lot of trust.
It does. And we want to be trusting them all the time. We tend to not trust because, again, it makes our life easier when we don't.
Right.
But when we don't trust them, we send a message, and that's the message: I don't trust you. And when we don't, this is subscribing. Let's do some examples of this. This would be simply subscribing to them saying, I don't need a coat at school today. I'm not going to get cold, right? Okay, well, in our minds, we know full well that that's not going to be the case. It's snowing. But how cool for them to have that experience and come back and go, guess what? I should have taken a coat. But they know that we trusted that they can make those decisions and then deal with and handle the consequences of those choices.
It's why we run around all winter with coats in our hands,
Right.
because we want everyone else to know that we
It's exactly
brought
right.
the coat, even though they didn't want to wear it. You're saying let them, go without the coat, metaphorically.
Again, and remember, there's that balance. Now go to a teenager. This is your teenager who says, I don't want to play that sport in high school anymore. And our minds are going, well, that's the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. And you need to, and I'm not a good mom if you're not doing these things.
And or you will regret it. I know you will, and they might.
And when we look at our own lives, I guarantee we can all come up with something where, because of a choice we made, because someone trusted us, we have a little regret at this point.
Sure.
And we learned from it and we grew from it, and that's what our kids need. Again, remember, we're trying not to swing too far to one side. We want to bring it back to this middle space where we're advising them and we're loving them, and they're choosing and they're being trusted. The last thing we want to make sure we're doing is we want to teach our kids to be rad. And I want you to use that acronym. We want to teach them to be resilient, we want to teach them to be adaptable, and we want them to be determined.
Resilient, adaptable, determined.
Then they're in a position where we can look at them and say they are rad. They put those things together. Resiliency is an ability to bounce back. It's experiencing challenges and not letting them sink you. We want our kids to be able to do that. The adaptability is necessary. An individual who can't adapt, who can't take new information and recalibrate the path that they're going to go.
Yeah.
This is describing their whole lives. Our entire lives are based on the ability to do these things successfully. And that determination to stand up for something, to know that they can be trusted in it, and even to be willing to put forth the work it takes to accomplish something, we want these things to be a part of our kids' lives. Now, if we're over-parenting and we're over-empathizing and we're over everything with our kids, they're not learning those skills and abilities, which is why it's so imperative we find a middle. So we will not stop talking about the importance of validating or seeing our kids as people or making sure that we sit in their feelings. We are going to keep talking about that always. We just want to make sure that we're talking about all the other things too, and that they come together to create this really beautiful place where our kids get all the things they need instead of just one side of the things that they need.
That's for it, Heather. Thanks for raising the flag on our behalf and teaching us along the way. To contact Heather for counseling, you can find her information on our website. I'll be thinking about this one for a while, so thank you very much. Great job.